I don't know how much your name influences the way you act or grow. Perhaps unconsciously over the period of your early life, you assume the characteristics that you or others associate with that name. Or perhaps you spend your whole life fighting against it and so deliberately take on other opposite characteristics. Either way, a different name might allow you to develop an entirely different character. Take Smash, for instance. We called him Smash. It wasn't a particularly clever nickname because his real name was Potatoes. Ian Potatoes. I'll let that sink in for a moment and imagine how you would have been affected by growing up with a name like Ian Potatoes. To my way of thinking, it is definitely actual proof that there is a God and that God has a sense of humour. Potatoes. I have no idea where that name came from. I mean, which part of the world? I don't know any country or ethnic grouping where the name potatoes occurs naturally. Do you? Perhaps, like the tuber, it has been cultivated and adapted over the generations from some sort of unpromising, ordinary name. Perhaps it was indeed originally Peruvian. Perhaps his family had modified it from some purple or blue beginning that grew in the frosty ground of the thin air of the high Andes. Perhaps, anyway, too many perhapses. The thing was, there was a very tuber-like guy who was cursed with the name Ian Potatoes. And like the humble tuber, Ian himself was very humble. No, that's not quite the right word. It was more that he exhibited a sort of blankness to the world, bland, characterless, without aspiration, like a plate of mash without the sausage and gravy. A great pale lump of disappointment. And for that, he was probably the most irritating non-entity to stump potato-like along the corridors of our school, from classroom to classroom, saying nothing and showing no emotion or reaction. In class, he would raise his hand and answer every question in a deliberate monotone that would have the teachers tearing their rapidly diminishing hair whilst waiting for him to get to the point. But that wasn't the most irritating feature of this great bland lump. It was the laugh. You're probably too young to remember the Cadbury Smash advertisements of the 1980s, in which Martian puppets laughed a sort of tinny, mechanical laugh at puny earthlings, preparing mashed potatoes in the old-fashioned way. But the thing was that Smash was born with the same sort of mechanical laugh. Or he had acquired it as some sort of defence from the mockery he must have suffered as a kid. Which came first, the name or the character? The thing was, he would deploy his laugh at the most inappropriate times. Sadly, that led to a great deal of bullying. He would stand there woodenly whilst other kids jostled him in the corridors, laughing as if it's some sort of inner joke. Perhaps he had some deep inner awareness at the absurdity of a universe that allows people to be born and live with a name like Ian Potatoes. "You'll never get a girlfriend with a name like that," jeered Timpson. "Why don't you change your name to something more sensible?" said Polkington Hughes, quite unaware of the irony. But there was never any real reaction to the jostling. If only he had fought back or stood up for himself. The feeling was that he was employing some sort of reverse psychology on the rest of the world, or he was just being deliberately annoying. One way or another, he went on, laughing mechanically like a smash Martian and being intensely annoying. In the end, the headmaster took a group of us aside and gave us a direct grilling. "Look," he said, "this has got to stop. Potatoes." He was the only person in the school who could say Smash's name without sniggering. "I know you boys have been foremost in a campaign of, shall we say, inconveniencing him." "Well, I'm sorry, sir," I volunteered. We just couldn't help it." "It's true," added Timpson. "The minute he appears, a sort of red mist descends." "And yet," said the headmaster, "he does nothing to warrant such treatment." "No, sir, we know. We don't know what it is. We're truly sorry." "I am aware of the situation," said the head. But you may not know that Potatoes has a great future in front of him. I want you to be kind to him in these last few weeks of term. It is important that we uphold the honour of the school by enabling him to take his final examinations without worry. There was a definite smirk playing about his lips. "Look," he said eventually, "let me be completely frank with you. You are men now, and I will address you as men. I know that Potatoes is the most annoying person ever to have graced the corridors of this school in the whole of its 300-year history. But I have an extensive list of staff members who have tendered their resignations at the end of this year should he continue. By September, the school will be empty and there will be no master to guide you to the inter-schools cups in rugger or cricket. But I have, there has been, shall we say, strings pulled. There is the possibility of an exhibition or even a scholarship for potatoes to read medicine at Cambridge. And a year early. Well, our mouths were agape. Somebody choked. Cambridge? Medicine? Potatoes? Somebody else said, potatoes? A doctor? Well, that's it. I'm never going to be ill again. Please, gentlemen, let's be adult about this. Whilst you've been basking in the limelight on the rugger field and the cricket pitch, potatoes has been sprouting away, as it were, in the dark, unaided. Now all he has to do is to succeed in his final exams, and he jabbed a finger threateningly at us. Neither you, nor I, nor any of the staff want him back here for another year. So we did our bit as dutifully as we could. Smash got his exams and disappeared to Cambridge, and we all enjoyed a blissful final year in sixth form without him. I think we won both the inter-schools tournaments that year. It was as if the sun shone every day. And that was the last I heard of the name potatoes until quite recently, when I heard the name crop up on a radio news broadcast. I turned up the volume to hear a somewhat incoherent report about a court case concerning an eminent cognitive behavioural therapist called Dr. Potatoes. Apparently there'd been a terrific altercation in Dr. Potatoes' consulting room. Blows had been exchanged and injuries had been sustained, although it wasn't clear who had assaulted whom. The patient said that a red mist had descended whilst he was being counselled about his aggressive behaviour. He thought perhaps the doctor had been laughing at him in a strange way. The doctor himself had not given evidence, and in an aside at the end of the report, the newscaster announced that the good doctor must be the most unlucky psychiatrist in the country because of the number of similar court cases he had been involved in over the years. I tried Googling the case, but I could never find it, or any mention of Ian Potatoes. Had he retired and changed his name? Had he managed to change the privacy settings on Google? Or had he died quietly, unmarried, and with no issue, the name Potatoes dying out with him? One way or the other, it seems, in the end, Finally, he managed to rid himself of a lifelong curse.